Before we get into today's episode about the Green Bay Packers safeties Darnell Savage Jr. and Adrian Amos, I just want to let you guys know that today's episode is sponsored by SeatGeek. SeatGeek, of course, you all know it, you all love it. It's the best place to get tickets to sporting events such as football games, also baseball games. Any sporting events, you can get a ticket for it there. And if you've never used SeatGeek before, you can save $20 off your first purchase just by using the promo code JKS. So that's all you have to do. If it's something you're interested in, the link is in the description below. And anyways, back to your regularly scheduled video. So in the season opener to kick off the 2019 season, the Green Bay Packers defense totally dismantled the Chicago Bears offense. And one thing I talked about was simply just the fact that the Green Bay Packers defensive line was seemingly just everything that they would do would just work against the Bears offensive line. I made an entire video about that. I literally stayed up all night actually making that video and just to try to get it out as quick as possible. But because I wanted to get that video out quickly just to have a video to talk about the season finally being back, I didn't quite have time to make a video on the whole Packers defense, so that's why I only made it about the Packers defensive line. But there were plenty of really impressive plays that the Packers defense made, and really two players that stood out to me were Adrian Amos and Darnell Savage Jr. And so I thought both of these new additions for the Packers, obviously they drafted Savage in the first round and then they signed Amos from the Chicago Bears. I thought they both played really well in their first game in a Packers uniform. Like on this one, they're going to be playing cover 2 zone, and worth noting, this is actually a second down and 21 here. So you're okay with anything short. If it's a short pass, no big deal. Just try not to get beat too deep. That's the way this is supposed to work. And so for Chicago, they're going to have Tariq Cohen just run a quick curl route, and the whole point of this play is get the ball to Cohen quickly, and then maybe in open space he can pick up some more yards because he is pretty good at doing that. And so right at the beginning of this play, it's actually going to work out pretty decently well. Cohen is clearly open, they can gain some yards, and hopefully try to gain some more yards after he makes the catch. As you see, Savage definitely has given up some space in between himself and Cohen here. However, he's going to lunge up very quickly, he makes an immediate tackle, and there's just no way Cohen can pick up some space, just simply because by the time he had the ball, he was already getting hit. I felt like Savage was really good at that. He was really good at understanding situational football, and this play was another example of him doing that, where it's going to be a cover 6 here, and the Bears have a receiver running right over there, which is actually going to be right in front of Savage's zone that he's in charge of covering. And so one thing you'll see a lot of young safeties do is they're kind of a bit too cautious, they'll be a bit too afraid to actually break in and try to make a play, but not Savage on this play. Savage was ready to make some plays. What you're going to see once the receiver runs his route is Savage is going to try to move in a little bit, try to see if he can cut off this route. At this point, there's some space, but not a ton of space, and so Savage is kind of moving in a little. This is probably a throw that Trubisky just shouldn't make, but at the same time, look at how Savage is going to lunge out and nearly intercept this football. Again, take advantage of the fact that Trubisky will make some throws that he shouldn't make and, try to make the play. He wasn't quite able to intercept it, but still a very good play from Savage to at least just knock the ball away. I felt like it was those types of plays that Savage was making all night. I felt like he did a very good job of kind of knowing exactly when he has to cut in and try to make a play. Sometimes you will see players, especially some very young players, kind of struggle a little bit at being able to know exactly when you have to break in and try to make some plays, which is why oftentimes defensive backs do take a bit of time to develop. It's kind of like being a 5K runner, right? Where you can't just go out of the gate sprinting, but at the same time, you can't just go out of the gate jogging. You have to kind of have a pace. You have to know where your body is at and know how good you are, because then you will know how fast you should pace yourself to get as good of a time as possible. You will often see guys be a bit too cautious at times, not necessarily make the best plays that you should make. Well, it's kind of the same thing in football. If you're a defensive player, you have to know exactly how quickly you can take those couple of steps and knock the ball away. If you misjudge that, well, that could result in you maybe giving up some completions where you could have knocked them away, and also you trying to knock a pass away that you have no business even trying to get close to and allowing a big gain. And it wasn't just more traditional safety plays either. He was able to be successful in blitzing. He was actually pretty good at blitzing. I have a feeling this is going to be a Packers team that likes to blitz a lot, and that means that a lot of different guys will have to get involved, not just linebackers, but oftentimes safeties and maybe even some corners. But like on this play, the way it's going to work is that first Green Bay is going to have their edge rusher on the bottom half of the screen really run as far to the bottom half of the screen and to the right side of the screen as possible. His job isn't really to try to make a play on the quarterback this one really at all. Of course, if there is a play to be made, then make the play, but he's actually kind of a setup man on this play. because with him doing that, this will now force the left tackle to also move over in that direction, and then Savage can simply just run and have a straight shot to Trubisky. But watch how quickly Savage is able to run over and disrupt this play. He lays a hit on Trubisky, and this was nearly a sack, but it did help disrupt that play. Trubisky had no time. He had to get that ball out as quickly as possible, and also I can't imagine it felt good taking that hit. And of course, the real reason that'll be impactful is that if Trubisky's first read wasn't open, he could have got blindsided, that could have been a fumble, just a lot of bad things could have happened for Chicago had that play just lasted an extra split second. So having a guy with Savage's speed definitely helps a lot. But it wasn't just Savage who was making some plays. Amos was out there making a lot of plays as well. He was running sideline to sideline a lot, and he was definitely making some plays. Like on this one, the way it's going to work for Chicago is they have a bunch formation on the bottom half of the screen, and it's going to be a wide receiver screen. So that wide receiver will simply just move out and take the screen pass, obviously. And then with two other Bears in the area, they can just move out to block those two Packers who are also in the area. And this is actually a good situation for Chicago. You know, it is zone coverage here, so there's only going to be two Packers on the bottom half of the screen. And this now means that for the Packers, really the next closest guy who could potentially make a play is Amos, who's all the way over there. And so for Trubisky, he's going to quickly just fake the handoff and then get the ball over to Cohen. And now at this point, look at how much distance Amos is going to have to cover here. That's a lot, but two things are going to happen. One is Amos is going to cover that distance, but also the corners do a pretty good job in front of Amos. They're able to disrupt the play, and then Amos is able to run over and knock him out of bounds. It wasn't just Amos who made that play. There was definitely several Packers who made that play, but it was really just a good job by them as a whole, which of course, that's a lot of what being a defense is. It's not just one player making a great play, but it's an entire team making good plays. And of course, if you are thinking about Amos's game, the biggest play of the night for him and for the entire Packers was the interception late in the game. There's 2 minutes and 3 seconds left with the Bears down 7, so you know, a touchdown and it's a tied ball game. And while yes, Green Bay does have Aaron Rodgers wasn't doing a whole lot against the great Bears defense. However, this play is actually going to be good news for Green Bay, largely because apparently Amos knew what was going to happen before this ball was even snapped. He knew what kind of play this already was, which seems plausible considering the fact that he did play for Chicago for many seasons. He played against Trubisky in practice, so all of that definitely makes sense and I totally buy it. Really, the one key thing you're going to take a look at is that receiver is running that route right there. He's going to try to get to the corner of the end zone and see if he can get a touchdown. And since Green Bay just has one safety deep in Amos, this is actually a pretty good route for Trubisky to throw to on this one. On paper, it makes a lot of sense, but take a look at what happens right when this ball is snapped. There's actually a couple of things to take a look at. One thing is, if you look at Amos, he's already creeping to the bottom half of the screen, because A, he already knew that this is the play concept that they were going to be running, but also B, if you look at Trubisky, he's totally staring down his receiver. So Amos did take a glance at Trubisky, say, this is what we're doing? Okay, yep, this is what we're doing, and then he runs over to the bottom half of the screen. So from that point, he is able to run over, leap up, and intercept this pass. It also wasn't necessarily a perfect pass, but give credit to Amos for getting a key interception in that football game, and that was the last time the Bears would really come close to scoring points. They did get one more drive, but it went backwards instead of forwards. So yeah, that's what I thought of the Packers' safeties. I thought they both played very well. You know, these are two guys playing for a new team, but I thought they both already played pretty well, which is definitely kind of difficult to do when you're playing in a new system. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, it was against Mitchell Trubisky, and you know what, that is fair, I think, but at the same time, I still thought they did a pretty good job. Chicago was not without their own mistakes, but you know what? A good team takes advantage of other teams' mistakes, and that's what Green Bay did in the first game of the season. So yeah, I made one more video about their first game. I know I've already made a video about their defense. I probably won't be doing things like this too much more often. I think I'll most likely just stick to one video per team per week, but I want to make another video about this, largely just because I said I would in my last video about this. But I really do feel like both of those two additions, in Amos and Savage, played very well, and I also just think that as a whole, the defense played very well. It is fair to say that, you know what, the offense only put up 10 points. They didn't play particularly well, but they're going up against a great defense, so it's really hard to see exactly how well they played. I do think there is going to be some growing pains just with Rodgers learning a new system, as there always is. When you have a new system trying to implement, there is going to be some sort of things that are rough around the edges. But on defense, I thought they were looking great. I already said in my last video, I thought Mike Pettin he deserved the MVP. I thought his coaching was just so well done in that game. It really was very impressive in my opinion. I think their test next week will be very interesting, them going up against the Minnesota Vikings, who, of course, you know, they ran the ball a lot last week. Dalvin Cook was very impressive. And while Kirk Cousins only threw the ball 10 times last game, they still had a dominating win, and I do expect Kirk Cousins to probably throw the ball more often than he did in the last week. Granted, hard to throw the ball a lot less often, so I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how they'll play on Sunday. There's a lot of intrigue to be had there. But at least through 1 week, you gotta be feeling pretty good if you are a Green Bay Packers fan. And so I really like Savage. I really like Amos. I think they've made great additions to this team already. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you thought of Amos and Savage and the entire Packers in their comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.